Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the Dark Phoenix of Konoha. Naruto has a big secret: he isn't the dead last he appears to be. But why would he show that before he is ready to deal with the stones the council loves placing in his way? The Sandaime, having opened his eyes, will do his best to make sure that Konoha will retain the will of fire. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 38, Attacking the Fortress. It was 8 in the evening the day after the massive defeat of Doto's forces by the Konoha team. He was halfway through the first preparations to counter the attack that would logically follow. He had got reports of 4 flying Thunder God seals being found in the base, which meant that they could at least determine that Naruto had been part of the ones infiltrating the fortress. Everything else didn't make sense. The problem was, they couldn't be absolutely sure that those were the only seals placed inside the fortress. The boy couldn't be underestimated, just like it had been with his father. That could only end in defeat, and Doto couldn't afford more of them in the near future. He really hadn't expected something like this when he had heard that Princess Koyuki had been identified as Yuki Fujikaze. The best part of that was that she had been set to come to Snow Country as part of the film crew for the next Princess Gale movie. It had seemed so easy to finally obtain the hexagonal crystal then, and to finally establish his undisputed rule over Snow Country. One ninja team from Konoha shouldn't have made that much of a difference. But it had. They had underestimated the team massively. His best ninjas were killed or captured. Even Nadare, the undoubtedly strongest of the snow ninjas, had lost against Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. For the second time in his plans to take over the country from his useless brother, he had been thwarted by a Konoha ninja. First, Kakashi Hatake, the new Godame Hokage, had saved Koyuki when she had been a child and had got her out of the country before he could lock down the borders. He had lost track of Koyuki after that during the consolidation of his power base and making the people see that he was now their daimyo. And now another young Konoha ninja had prevented that he got Koyuki and the thrice-damned crystal into his hands. He was sure that they didn't know the importance of the crystal, but it was infuriating. He had increased the guards. Nobody would be able to get close to him. It was clear that he would be a prime target for the coming attack. He had also strengthened the security around the laboratory. He didn't want that his blueprints got into the hands of the Konoha group. One day where there hadn't been any alarms about anybody being in close proximity to the labs that didn't belong there wasn't enough for them to steal anything of importance so far, but if they launched a real attack, it was only a question of time until they got in there. And he couldn't afford that Konoha got the secret to his success. They were annoying enough as it was. His call for backup from the Snow Village was already out, and the reinforcement troops of specialists that could counter the Konoha team's abilities better than the ones he had previously tasked with the job would arrive later tonight. It was an unfortunate disadvantage to having the fortress and the village being separated locally, but the reason was sound. If somebody attacked one location, the other one could still react and act as a new headquarters for the defenders. The only reason why he had been able to take over the country was that the snow ninjas had been unhappy with his brother's plans to reduce their numbers. He watched from his throne how the change of guards took place. It was the normal, disciplined act. The identification of the seals on the lower arms was done as perfectly as always. It was a great security measure. Nobody would be able to sneak past those guards. And if somebody tried, they would be stopped immediately. Then he saw that his dinner had arrived. Previously he had always taken his dinner in his rooms, but right now, he didn't have the time to do that. He needed to be constantly available to confirm plans and discuss strategies with his new leaders, as they weren't experienced enough in what they did. He had somebody perform the normal scans of the food, the waiters that brought the food, and asked for the current passcodes before they were allowed inside. Then he stood from his throne and went over to a table that was normally used for strategy discussions. A small space was cleared for him to sit down and eat in peace. He looked at the dishes and had to smile. The cook really knew his preferences. It was clearly his favorite food. Probably the cook wanted to earn points with him by serving this food at a time where he was stressed. Well, he would positively remember it. He took the first bite and had to suppress a moan of delight. The steak was fried to perfection. The potatoes au gratin that was served with it were also delicious. He enjoyed his meal a lot while the waiters made sure that his glass was always filled, though he refrained from drinking more than one glass of wine, as he needed to stay sober tonight. He took some imported fruit juice instead after the one glass he allowed himself. With the climate of snow country being what it was, fruit juice was nearly as much of a luxury as wine was. Then, when he had finished his meal, he went back to his throne, calling his commanders of the forces at the fortress to him. They needed to clear the plans for the night. They still didn't have full forces back, thanks to the attack. None of the ones hit by the senbons in the neck were up for work now, and the replacements that he had called in already were not used to the discipline that was practiced at the fortress yet. Well, at least they had managed to get a large number of suits transported here. This way even the weaker soldiers had a small chance against the Konoha ninjas. Naruto was hidden under his mirage jutsu again. Haku and the others were waiting at the prison area of the fortress. It seemed that the screens for his flying thunder god seals hadn't included that area, which was actually quite stupid. It was logical from a ninja's point of view to have a way to free captured comrades from the very place the enemy would keep them if you had a chance to arrange it. Naruto had simply placed 2 seals onto the inside of the bars of 2 prison cells. That got them out of sight, but still easily accessible by Naruto's jutsu. And the best part was that, because of being underground, the seals that provided protection to the fortress and alarmed the guards to their entry, didn't work properly. It was a huge blind spot. Especially as Niji had determined that the entrances to the canalization of the fortress was outside of the barrier and then led inside without guards making sure that nobody could use that entrance. While there were seals to fry anybody that touched the grills that separated the pipe leading inside from the accessible places with a huge charge of electricity, not to mention that for any non-ninja getting there would be impossible, with it being at the bottom of a steep cliff that had been secured with several traps. For a good ninja, with abilities of about Chunin rank, it was fairly easy to get down there to enter. And as a Fuinjutsu master, Naruto could easily circumvent the lightning seals at the grills. His were far more advanced. Naruto had transported Niji, Haku and Tenten into the prison area while Guy and Lee were going through the other entrance to not have their group sitting in one place in case they were noticed. They had the counter seals on their persons that would allow them to have the electricity be channeled to the side. It wouldn't trigger any alarms that might go off if the electricity was turned off, which would let them get further inside before they would be detected. Naruto had then flashed to a second seal that hadn't been noticed so far, one hidden under a board of the kitchen storage room. He had kept hidden and at a good moment slipped into the group of those that were working at the dinner for Doto and the other people at the fortress under a transformation. Nobody but 2 people that had special security clearance were allowed to get close to Doto's food, but that wasn't what Naruto was after anyway. His target had been the silver serving plate on which the normal plate would be put and then covered with a silver cap before being taken to Doto's throne room. He had easily been able to carry the plate to the serving wagon and unnoticed by anybody had placed a seal under it. One that was written in invisible ink. This would give him access to the throne room at any time, as the seal, once it touched another surface, would be transferred to it, thanks to a second formula surrounding the Flying Thunder God one. He really loved Fuinjutsu. Koyuki and Sandae were at the safe house waiting with 30 of Naruto's shadow clones. They had decided that for the surprise attack to work out, they couldn't spare any of them as guards, but with Naruto's ability to make as many clones as he wanted to, they would manage. Especially as Koyuki now wore a bracelet with a sealing formula on it that would not only allow him to flash to her side in an instant if he was needed, it also created a strong barrier that would block any kind of attack on her. She was as safe as they could make her. The idea of her leading a strike against her uncle was ridiculous, and they had told Sandayu in no uncertain terms that they wouldn't endanger the life of the princess in an attack that she wasn't ready for. Koyuki was very pleased to hear that part. She could agree with dealing with the cleaning up after Doto was dealt with, but she didn't want to die for a country she had fled from as a child and where she still had nightmares about. A country where spring didn't exist. She wanted to continue being an actress, even if she took over as daimyo. She had decided that while she was willing to rule Snow Country officially, if they really managed to get rid of Doto, there would be others that took care of the day-to-day work while she continued her career as an actress. While Sandayu wasn't too happy about it, it was definitely an improvement to before. They had planned to strike when the guard change took place. Guy and Lee would provide a distraction by going through the pipes and taking out any opponent that got in their way. Then Niji, Haku and Tenten would go up from the prison area and start on their part. His job would be taking Doto out. As he was the one with the best abilities in stealth, not to mention that he could flash to his seal that would now be on Doto's table in the throne room, he had got this job. There was no doubt that Doto would have his own version of the suits that all snow ninjas wore, so they needed to take him by surprise and from a place he didn't expect they could get into. He looked at his wristwatch and finally the time for the planned attack arrived. He could hear that some guards were called downstairs for an attack coming in from the pipes, getting closer very fast. Well, it seemed Guy and Lee had started. He flashed away from his position right into the throne room. Haku led Niji and Tenten into the fortress. They made sure to stay hidden for as long as possible. They knew that Lee and Guy were already busy with their distraction and they had to take out as many guards as possible. With the corridors mostly being long and straight, it was perfect for Tenten and Haku to attack, while Niji could give them information where their targets would appear. Both Haku and Tenten would keep to thrown weapons as long as possible, as there might be chakra detectors around. With how technologically advanced Snow Country was, it wouldn't surprise any of them. Group of 5 coming into target range in 15 seconds, Niji told them softly. Haku and Tenten were ready. They fired their weapons when the group turned around the corner and Tenten took 3 down and Haku 2. Niji confirmed that they were down for good and the group proceeded. 10 coming up from the left, Niji informed them, 7 from the right coming closer as well. I take left, you take right, Tenten addressed Haku. All right. Niji, take those that get past our weapons, Haku nodded and got a nod in return. The weapons flew as soon as the guards turned around the corner. Trespasser at level 3, one guard managed to shout into his communicator before he fell to one of Tenten's shuriken to the throat. Well, that has our position compromised. Let's make most of it, Haku declared. Yes, I have some seals that I got at the armory that Dark Phoenix recently developed that I've been dying to test, Tenten agreed giddily. Yes, that would be a good idea. I have one that I was asked to test as well, Niji nodded. Haku didn't know what kind of seals they had, but he knew that Dark Phoenix was supposedly a genius with Fuinjutsu and his contributions to the armory of Konoha had improved their power in battle as well as the duration for which a ninja could fight immensely. Doto commanded the soldiers in his throne room when he got the information that the attack that he had been waiting for had been started. He should have known that the pipes would be a weak point, but he had honestly forgotten that the outlet was outside of the barrier. A costly mistake that would need to be rectified as soon as they had countered the attack. If those Konoha ninjas thought that he would lose at his home turf, the fortress that he had changed to his ideas, they were dead wrong. He would show them how their arrogance would be their downfall. Send battalions 8 and 12 to intercept the attack, he called out, and be on guard in case this is a distraction for a second attack from another spot. Yes, Lord Doto, many exclaimed and ran off to get to their positions. The elite guards would stay at all times to stop any direct attack on him. He had to wait for about 10 minutes to get first reports. Team 8 is down to 10 men. There are 2 confirmed attackers. From descriptions they are Guy and the boy that resembles him so much, one soldier manning the communicator station reported. Then the others are somewhere else. At least one will be guarding Koyuki, but the others will attack from a second point. Don't drop your guard, Doto demanded. Lord Doto, report from Patrol 23. Contact with the enemy on level 3, he got the next bit of information, no information on identities. Is C. Send battalions 13, 20, and 26 there to intercept. We have to suspect that Naruto is on the second team. We can't afford to underestimate his ability to take down smaller groups quickly. His father was famous for taking down whole armies in seconds with that cursed flying thunder god jutsu, Doto ordered. Then suddenly a hail of kunao appeared from the table with the maps on it and screams of pain followed within the next 2 seconds. Guards! Was the one thing Doto could shout before he found himself being hit with at least 10 senbons to the face and neck. Be happy that we want information from you, or you'd be dead by now, he heard a voice next to him and then blackness took over. Naruto was happy how easily he had managed to get into the throne room. He acted as soon as he arrived and had got an overview where the guards and Doto were positioned. He threw a flurry of kunao with the seals and flashed around the room from one kunao to the next in less than 3 seconds to kill them all where they stood. It was simply too dangerous to leave them alive, not when he needed to capture Doto. The one chance he had were his poisons. He had 10 senbons ready once he had cut the throat of the last guard he noticed. Thankfully the flying thunder god jutsu slowed his perception down, similar to the Sharingan's ability to estimate movement actually, which had been an inspiration to his father when he created the jutsu. The other was the summoning jutsu. When the senbons hit, he had to grin. This had been much easier than expected, even with the moment of surprise being on his side. Doto fell down, drugged, and Naruto quickly threw 4 kunao with sealing tags at the 4 corners of the door frame. It activated a barrier that would keep backup outside until he was gone again. He sealed the body of Doto into a prisoner scroll. It would be up to Koyuki to publicly execute him when she took over as daimyo. That man was a traitor and traitors needed to be permanently taken out. And by doing it in front of the people, it would make clear that another attempt at the Kazuhana royal family, by then only Koyuki, would be met with the harshest penalty. Naruto flashed away again, locking onto the seal he had on Haku's sleeve. He would get the other 3 out, now that their main goal had been met. A moment later he appeared to a battle which was clearly going in favor of his comrades. Niji was racing through the lines of soldiers, simply tapping them with a finger, making them fall down. Haku had another group at the mercy or her 1,000 flying water needles and Tenten was a little back and hit with deathly accuracy with shuriken and kunaos. He could see that there were many tied up in sticky nets that originated from seals tied to kunao that were stuck in the walls. It seemed that Tenten had used one of his newer seals. Spider net seals to be precise. He grinned. It was good to see that they worked like they should in battle. The seals were set up to activate if they got close enough to a chakra source not keyed into the seals. After all, you didn't want to hit your allies with a seal like that in battle. The net would drag the one it hit to the nearest surface and tie him up there thanks to the substance used in the seal being as hard as steel once it hardened. Which only took 10 seconds after being exposed to oxygen. Then he watched Honiji shot a chakra beam along the corridor, stopping the reinforcements by forcing them to dodge. That also was one of his new creations. A seal that turned a chakra burst from the part of the body where it was placed into a beam that could fly at distant targets. He had developed it with the Hyuga clan in mind, as they were masters of the gentle fist, which included chakra injections from their fingers. The problem of many Hyugas was long-distance battle, as they didn't want to learn normal ninjutsu, being too proud of their gentle fist. But this way, they were basically just augmenting their existing techniques, which made them much more dangerous fighters than before. Naruto helped out with a wind jutsu, which also served as a signal to the others to get out of the fortress. There was no need to fight against everybody that was currently stationed inside the fortress while Naruto had already fulfilled his part of the mission. Tenten was the first to step next to him, then Neji and Haku followed. They all took hold of him and he transported them away, leaving the soldiers shocked how easily they had been trounced and how helpless they had been in stopping their opponents to get away unharmed. Once Naruto had Haku's team back at the hideout, he teleported to Guy's position and got him and Lee, even if they had dealt with their opponents decisively. Both were ranting about being in the springtime of youth and Naruto simply took hold of them to get back to their base. He really needed some chakra replenishment. This had taken up a good half of his reserves. Transporting people many times was much harder than simply jumping from one seal to the next. And even that cost a good amount of chakra, which was why nobody besides him and his father had ever truly mastered the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. The chakra cost was immense. He knew from his father's journal that he had dealt with the problem by perfecting his chakra control. While he had had large reserves, he wouldn't have been able to jump to more than 5 kunaus in a row if not for his perfect chakra control. The creation of the Raiznan was another proof of that. That technique in its full form would cost a lot of chakra normally, but with perfect control, which was ultimately the last step of the jutsu, you could cut down the chakra cost a lot. Naruto himself compensated with more chakra for his lack of perfect control. While he had great control for somebody with his kind of reserves, not to mention a certain fox inside of him, he would never be that perfect without the help of seals. And that simply wasn't worth the hassle. Somebody with reserves rivaling a Biju on his own didn't need to look out for how much chakra he normally used. He could afford to waste a little. Neji and Naruto set to work in Interrogating Doto after Naruto had got out his concoctions that worked on getting truthful answers out of those not trained in the higher skills of ninjas. Not to mention after they had stripped him from his chakra armor suit. As expected, he wore an advanced model, which would have been detrimental in interrogation. And to face it, while Doto might have known some ninjutsu, they all doubted that he got around to do interrogation resistance training. He was after all attempting to rule a country, not becoming a full-time ninja. The fighting skills would have been much higher on his agenda than other things. It only took 1 hour, with lots of swearing and threats from Doto, but they got the gist of what reasons the man had for his actions. After all, it made no sense to go after the princess of a country that didn't really plan to return, had she not been tricked and basically kidnapped. Doto was after the family treasure of the Kazahanas, and the crystal that Koyuki always wore around her neck was the one existing key to it. The two got the location of the place where the key had to be inserted to unlock the secret hiding place. Thanks to some recording seals, which the film crew had paid a major sum to Naruto to have them do some recording of the battles inside the fortress for the movie just needed an impressive conclusion. The revelation of the treasure of the royal family, after the main villain had been defeated and captured, was perfect. So Koyuki, accompanied by some royal guards, the film crew and the Konoha team, agreed to go there to see what kind of treasure her father had left for her to find. They used some sleighs to get there and the journey was filmed as well. Doto was also taken along, of course tied up securely, just to make sure to get his defeated impression when he finally got to see the treasure that would now never be his. Koyuki stepped up to the slot where the crystal had to be inserted. She pulled the necklace from around her neck and then pushed the crystal into the slot. Nothing happened. Shouldn't something happen? Koyuki asked Doto. Yes, he growled, but looked surprised as well. Wait, do you hear that? Naruto asked, taking guarding position next to Koyuki. The others heard a low rumbling as well now. Then some parts of the ice covering the hills around them broke and fell down. There's something under the ice, Tenten pointed out. Yes, and it's getting freed, Niji confirmed. There's a lot of chakra in the air. It's also getting warmer, Naruto commented. Everybody was then surprised when a hologram was projected above their heads. One of Koyuki when she had been younger and her father. Koyuki looked stricken, seeing the memory of her father, when he told her that one day spring would come to Snow Country. And her declaration that she would both be an actress and a daimyo. For the first time in years, real tears ran down her cheeks. No, that can't be the Kazuhana treasure. Doto shouted, this isn't a treasure, this is rubbish. What kind of treasure are heat generators? For the people of Snow Country this will be the greatest treasure they could receive, Naruto countered calmly. For a country that never saw spring, these heat generators will finally push back the eternal cold. While the snow won't leave forever, you'll be able to grow plants, supply your people with food from your own country and won't be dependent on other countries selling you those things for high prices. And with the rightful daimyo back, there will finally be peace. Well said, Naruto. I will make sure that my father's dream comes true. And like I already decided as a child, I'm going to do both. Be an actress and rule Snow Country, Koyuki declared. Naruto smiled at her. It seemed that deep down there had still been a part of Koyuki that wanted to help her people. But not at the price of her life, which she had rightfully feared being on the line, should she come back to this country. I guess then you have a coronation to organize, Naruto chuckled. Yosh, what a youthful end to a hard mission. Lee shouted. Thankfully Niji and Haku prevented that the infernal sunset genjutsu of youth could be triggered. Nobody wanted to have that on tape. The coronation was grand. After Doto was publicly judged and then executed for his crimes, those being high treason against Snow Country, murder of the previous daimyo, assault against the new daimyo, and a few more that weren't as damning, the remaining parts of the troops that had served under him were arrested and locked up. Those that had simply followed orders because they didn't see another way to survive might be reinstated as guards, but Koyuki planned to change things a lot. She wouldn't allow the oppression of the people. Her inauguration as daimyo was greeted with happiness all around her. She knew that she would have to fight a high number of battles in the future, as there were many that had profited from Doto's actions, but she had got the loyalty oaths from the leaders of the Snow Ninja village. Not to mention that she would soon sign an alliance treaty with Fire Country. This would be a major political coup, as under Doto Snow Country had lost most of their previous allies. Koyuki appeared to the Konoha group once the official part of the coronation was over. I really want to thank you for all your work in freeing my country. And having patience with me. I know I wasn't the easiest person to protect, she admitted. No, certainly not, but we can understand the reason why, Naruto accepted. I'm especially grateful to you, Naruto. You made Sandayu see that his strategy was faulty and were essential in taking down my uncle. How about you move here and become head of my ninja guards? Koyuki offered. The others gasped. Such an offer was incredible. It was a high honor to be offered something like that. And the daimyo of Fire Country would definitely make it happen, should Naruto ask for it. It would improve the relations between Fire Country and Snow Country massively, should one of Konoha's most prolific upcoming ninjas be accepted as leading guard to the new daimyo. Your offer honors me, Koyuki, but sadly I have to decline, Naruto said formally. I fear I would be bored just having to watch out for threats against you. I want to reach the top among the ninjas in the world and one day surpass my father. For that I need to become stronger and I can't do that in a position like commander of your ninja guard. I'm also just 13 years old. I need to grow and learn more by experience. I know that I'm really strong for my age, but I need to become even stronger to be able to take on the really powerful ninjas out there. I suspected that you might say something like that, Koyuki huffed. Well, you all will always be welcome whenever you come back to Snow Country, though we're having a vote of renaming it Spring Country coming up next week. And maybe, perhaps in the future I can recruit you away from Konoha." She grinned mischievously and kissed the surprised Naruto on the cheek. Then she walked away and cheerily gave some children autographs that they asked for. "Wow, talk about going to high places," Tenten commented. "Not everybody can claim having got a kiss from a beautiful daimyo," Haku added. "Yosh, such a youthful thing to happen to you, Naruto!" Lee exclaimed loudly, causing some stares going into their direction. Naruto just nodded. He really hadn't expected the kiss. But in some way, he was happy about it. It was the first time that somebody had kissed him voluntarily. Chapter 39, A Dangerous Situation. Kakashi listened closely to the report that Guy gave on the successful mission. He was glad about his face mask, as it hid his urge to grin hearing how his student had played a large part in the success of the mission. Not to mention that Naruto getting some well-deserved acknowledgement and probably causing a new alliance for Fire Country and Konoha to be created would look very good on his mission record. Few ninjas could say this about their missions. Now Naruto had already saved 2 countries. Indeed impressive. "I'm glad that the mission turned out like that and that you managed to get the rightful ruler of the newly dubbed Spring Country back onto her rightful throne. Very good work, team," Kakashi commented once Guy was done. "I'm looking forward to seeing the offer of an alliance that you mentioned coming in. It would also benefit the village greatly if we could set up constant trading agreements with Spring Country. I am sure that the daimyo will also compliment you for the results. Now, I would like to speak with Naruto about the blueprints that he got for our research department. All others are free to go. You can take a week off from duty before you have to take the next mission." Haku, Tenten, Neji, Lee and Guy bowed and left the office while Naruto remained. Kakashi dismissed his guards and activated the privacy seals. "How much did you manage to take with you, Naruto?" Kakashi asked. "Everything they had in their high-security safe, sensei," Naruto answered after taking a seat. He knew that this would take longer. "I think besides the chakra armor, we could also get a lot of use out of the plans for the train system. Not only for military purposes, but also for simple transport of goods. It would cut the time of getting things to the village down a lot, and that could be useful for both our military supplies as well as civilian products. We could also ask for a nice fee for letting civilians use our train system. Alone a connection between Konoha and the capital would be immensely valuable." "Not a bad idea, Naruto. I will certainly discuss this with the daimyo during our next meeting. From the report I managed to gather that some of your new seal designs passed the test successfully." Kakashi half-asked half-stated. "Yes, the net seals are very useful in a battle when you want to detain your opponent and not kill him. The seal that was created with the Hyuga clan in mind was also a success. Neji used it to great effect. It takes one of the Hyuga's main weaknesses away. I have some more ideas from the mission for new seals as well. I will use the next week to work some of them out and then present them to you," Naruto told his sensei. "That sounds promising. I'm looking forward to seeing them. Did you have any trouble with Haku?" This was the first mission he went on with somebody that was directly involved in the mission that got him captured and Zabuza killed. Kakashi wanted to know. "No, Haku worked well with me when we infiltrated the fortress and never showed any kind of animosity against me, even if I was the one to defeat and capture him back then," Naruto answered. "He did his part of the mission perfectly." "That's good to know." While we were already quite sure of the 3 really having changed sides, there were some concerns left over Haku's feelings towards those directly involved in the Wave Country mission. Good to see that we can lay them to rest. While they will still be watched, we can reduce the number of watchers now with that report, Kakashi stated satisfied. Naruto just nodded. Then he was surprised to have a scroll thrown at him. "What is this, sensei?" Naruto asked. A sealing matrix that one of our teams came across when they were on a mission. We don't know yet what it truly means, which is why I want you to have a look at it, Naruto. I would give you the same full week of free time as the others, but this is urgent. The scroll arrived yesterday and the team is waiting for our response on how to proceed with their mission, Kakashi stated. Naruto opened the scroll and then analyzed the sealing matrix before blanching. Sensei, where did they find that seal? Naruto asked strained. The team is inside Fang country to investigate the vanishing of a number of people that never reappeared anywhere. What is that seal about? Kakashi asked. This is a variant of a summoning jutsu. A dangerous one at that. Where a normal summoning jutsu requires a small amount of blood to call an animal that you have a contract with, this one is based on the Jashin cult. The seal basically, once a certain amount of human blood is sacrificed, will call a Reaper spirit that will fuse with the one using the summoning array. Supposedly, if the ritual is performed correctly, the summoner will become a high priest of Jashin, a Reaper spirit that the Jashinists call a god, and be immortal. As far as I know, from what I found in Orochimaru's notes, as little as there was about the group, you need at least 50 victims for the ritual, Naruto stated. Crap, that's really serious. Jashinists are already a pest before they are impossible to kill. We need to send backup to the team immediately. No normal Chunin team can take on a skilled Jashinist, Kakashi cursed. The massacre of the hidden hot springs village 10 years ago was bad enough. We don't need another Haiden. The crazy priest that enjoys his religion too much? He's an S-ranked missing nin, Naruto asked. Yes, that one. He was behind the massacre that caused the hidden hot springs village to fully change their village into a tourist attraction, using the large number of natural hot springs that the country had to earn money. They were a very small village anyway, and after Haiden was done there, the number of active ninjas was too low to call themselves a hidden village anymore anyway. So far the number of Jashinists is low, as their rites involve self-injury and not many want to do that. But the crazy ones that actually follow them, are really dangerous, as they don't care about the number of innocents that they kill, all to please their so-called god, Kakashi confirmed. Naruto pondered the situation. Sensei, please let me go and back up the team in Fang country. I am probably the only one that can undo the sealing matrix before they activate it and create another immortal priest, Naruto asked. We can't let this get out. After a long A-rank mission like yours, you need to rest for at least 2 days, normally the week that I gave your team off. But I agree that this is an emergency. I will send you there as Dark Phoenix. That way nobody should find it strange that you are doing 2 A-rank missions after another without a break. The fastest way to get there would be sending one of your Konoha ahead and flashing there, but we don't want anybody to find out your identity, Kakashi pondered the problem. Fang country is about a day at ninja speed away, Naruto mentioned. I could fill up my supplies in 1 hour and then take off. You could send a messenger hawk ahead to inform the team leader that I'm coming and to not, at any circumstances, let somebody with a large scythe pour blood anywhere near the seal. I don't know how many victims they have assembled already, but we should act fast. True. I'm going to send for Shikamaru and Hinata to support you. Shikamaru will be valuable to trap the Jashinists and Hinata can help you as a scout and be the team's medic, Kakashi decided. It will be a challenge to keep Shikamaru out of the loop, Naruto commented. I'm sure you'll manage. After all, you managed to keep everybody in the dark for years while you trained in secret, Kakashi told him with one of his eye smiles. Point, Naruto admitted. I'll have the 2 here in 1 hour, Kakashi stated and Naruto nodded, using the Flying Thunder God Seal in his secret hideout to save time to go there. I really envy him for having that ability, Kakashi mumbled and called his assistant in to get Shikamaru and Hinata into his office. 1 hour after Naruto had left, he, in his Dark Phoenix disguise, Shikamaru and Hinata were assembled in Kakashi's office. "I have an A-rank mission for you three," Kakashi informed them, and Shikamaru and Hinata stiffened hearing the rank of the mission. Dark Phoenix will be the team leader, as his expertise with seals is a critical part for this mission. Another Konoha team of Chunins in Fang country has found a seal that Dark Phoenix identified as a summoning seal used in Jashinist rituals. Time is of the essence. I would let you take more Jonins with you on the mission, but they are already on other missions or have just returned from another long mission. Your mission is to stop the ritual. If a Reaper spirit can be summoned, we will have to deal with another insane and immortal High Priest. Normal Jashinists are already a pain to deal with, but a High Priest is whole other kettle of fish. Dark Phoenix knows the way to disrupt the seal that is needed for the ritual to work. Make sure that he is able to do that. Also take this," he pushed a new edition of the bingo book over to them. "You want to read up the entry about Haiden of the former Hot Springs village. He's a known high priest of Jashin and responsible for the end of that country's ninja village, because he used them to fuel his own ritual as far as we know." Naruto nodded and took the bingo book. He leafed through the pages and found the one about Haiden. The man had silver hair, wore a necklace with a symbol that belonged to the Jashin cult around his neck and carried a scythe around with him. Hinata and Shikamaru memorized his looks as well. There isn't a lot of information about the ways a Jashinist fights, but we know that they can somehow transfer their injuries to another person. Be very careful if you encounter somebody wearing that symbol on their person. I doubt that you would meet an opponent like Haiden, as Jashinists normally work alone, but better safe than sorry, Kakashi seriously declared. "Understood, Hokage-sama," Naruto replied, knowing to slip into his Dark Phoenix cover. "All right, you already have your equipment, correct?" "Yes, Dark Phoenix," Hinata confirmed while Shikamaru just nodded, mumbling how troublesome this mission would be. "Good. We will leave immediately. We should be able to reach Fang country tomorrow. I have the information about their last known location and they have been sent a hawk with instructions to wait for us to get there and only to interfere if it seems as if the ritual is about to commence," Naruto told the other two. "I will brief you about the other details on the way." The other two nodded and they left the Hokage's office through the door. Kakashi only hoped that they would manage this mission. But he only had guy inside the village who had full Jonin rank and he wouldn't be suited for this kind of mission. He didn't like the shortage of manpower he currently had, even if the invasion had gone better than could have been hoped for. Naruto set a high pace, which he knew that both Shikamaru and Hinata were capable of following. They moved in triangular formation with Naruto taking point, Hinata behind him to the left and Shikamaru behind to the right. "So, what kind of ritual are we talking about and what are the requisites for it to work?" Shikamaru asked. "Blood sacrifice of at least 50 people. There have been lots of disappearances of people in Fang country, which is why the other team was sent there to investigate. The Jashinist that wants to ascend to High Priest status has to sacrifice the blood in a certain way to activate the seal, which will then call forth a Reaper spirit. Said spirit will then fuse with the Jashinist and give him the immortality that is so annoying about their High Priests. A normal Jashinist simply thrives on killing people in the name of his god Jashin, but you can kill him like any other opponent. They still manage to somehow create a connection with their victims, but they are limited in the kind of damage they can do. There isn't much known about how they create the connection, as most of the ones that fell prey to that, died shortly after. A high priest meanwhile has no limits of what kind of injuries he can cause himself to transfer, as he can't die. Which is why Haiden is wanted as an S-rank missing nin. Greatest caution is needed when you engage one of these bastards, Naruto informed them. How are we going to fight against somebody like that? Hinata asked. I have a number of seals on me that will help with it. Close combat against a Jashinist is dangerous, which is why we will try to trap him in some way, depending on how the area is built. We will have to get an idea once we get there. Your shadow manipulation should be very useful in that regard, Shikamaru. You can prevent that the bastard can move and harm anybody while the rest of our team can move in and kill him before he can finish the ritual, Naruto told them. Makes sense. For a full plan we need the information that the other team has collected so far. We should get an idea of how far the Jashinist has come in his preparations, Shikamaru nodded. Hinata, I want you to regularly activate your Byakugan to alarm us in case of somebody closing in on us. I think activating it every 2 minutes for a short look around should suffice once we are in Fang country, Naruto continued. I will do that, Hinata confirmed. They left the trees to run across a grassy field until they reached the next area with trees, which they jumped up into again to travel unnoticed. Izumo Kamizuki and Katetsu Hagana were waiting for the backup that the Hokage had sent their way. They didn't like the information that their team leader, Shimon Hajiri, had passed on to them about the analysis that Dark Phoenix had given about the seal that they had stumbled about while investigating the disappearing people. It wasn't enough that some strange house seemed to be the cause for them vanishing, now there was also an insane cult involved. Not at all what they had expected when they had been sent on this supposed B-rank mission. When do you think they will arrive? Katetsu asked. No idea, but if they left Konoha shortly after the hawk that Hokage-sama sent, they should be here soon, Izumo answered. I wonder who they will send. We don't have a lot of Jonin available after all. Asuma and Kurane are busy with that mission in that village east of Konoha, Genma and Yojao are in Wind Country to keep an eye on Suna after their betrayal during the Chunin exams, Guy is in Snow Country, Anko is busy in T&I, as is Ibiki. The clan heads are on reserve to deal with clan business and most others are doing one mission or another. Even our team didn't get a special Jonin to lead us after all. And that's the normal procedure for a B-rank mission. True. That invasion cost us a lot of manpower, even if we were victorious. Thankfully we knew beforehand and had a good strategy. Otherwise, the number of victims would have been much larger, Katetsu shuddered. I don't want to imagine it. It was bad enough as it was. With a seal like that involved in our mission, I would guess that they might send a Fuinjutsu specialist. Wasn't Naruto one? Izumo mentioned. He was confirmed as a seal master by Jiraiya-sama, that's true, but he's in Snow Country with Guy and his team. I think the new Ice Bloodline limit user, Haru, or Haku was his name I think, was also sent there with the team. Probably a smart decision, as the terrain would be optimal for his jutsus, Katetsu mentioned. A pity. Hokage-sama could just have sent us one of Naruto's Kunao and he could have teleported to the position like his father did in the past, Izumo sighed. It's amazing if you ask me that nobody ever noticed who his father was. I mean, knowing it, the similarity in their looks is startling. We didn't want to look too closely and the Sandaime did his best to keep Naruto's true identity a secret. I guess that Iwa and Kumo would have tried badly to assassinate him had they known. Especially Iwa hated the Yondaime, Izumo admitted. Which Fuinjutsu specialist do we have in the village? Katetsu pondered. Well, Jiraiya-sama, Hokage-sama and Danzo are either masters in Fuinjutsu or proficient. Then there is of course Dark Phoenix, but I doubt that Hokage-sama would send him outside of the village, Izumo commented. Well, I guess we'll find out soon. There is movement over there, Katetsu pointed to the east. And indeed, 3 figures were moving towards their position at high Chunin speed. When they reached their position, the 2 Chunin that were normally stuck with gate duty were surprised. They hadn't expected 2 rookie Chunin and somebody who hid his identity to arrive as their backup. You're the team Hokage-sama sent? Izumo asked. Yes. I'm Dark Phoenix, and I was sent to inspect the seal you found and neutralize it before it can be used, Naruto answered. My teammates Shikamaru Nara and Hinata Hyuga were chosen to assist with trapping our opponent and being scout and medic for the team. Izumo nodded. really surprised to see the famed Fuinjutsu master that had been the cause for the greatly upgraded stock of the armory with seals of all kinds in person. He really hadn't expected him to be this young. He would guess him to be around 16 going by his height and voice. Good to have you here. By the way, which rank do you have, just to know where to place you among the chain of command, Kotetsu wanted to know. I'm operating with special Jonin rank, Naruto answered, knowing that there were too many secret agents in Konoha that had that rank to be found out by just that. That would mean you're the highest ranking ninja among our group. Everybody else is Chunin, Izumo mentioned. I'll leave leading the mission in the hands of the one chosen to lead it, except I need to take command over a specific part related to the seal and the Jashinist that is running around somewhere, Naruto informed them. They nodded and then led the three towards their base where the other two members of their squad were waiting for them. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.